Welcome to the Recruiting Stories Podcast, where we celebrate recruiting by exploring the stories of leaders and top performers by digging into their stories and understanding how recruiting has impacted their journey and their success. All right, everybody, welcome to the next edition of the Recruiting Stories Podcast. I'm thrilled to have Jeremie Kubicek. He is the founder of Giant Worldwide. Among other businesses, multiple businesses, serial entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author, a speaker, and he's our guest today. I'm thrilled to have him. Thanks for being here, Jeremie.
Adrian, good to be with you, man. Fired up.
Yeah, I'm fired up as well. So the way we got connected, Jeremie spoke at an event that I was at recently, Kinsman event, where I am here locally. I will say Jeremie is truly, I listened to a couple of his YouTube videos, one of the most gifted speakers I've ever heard. So if you ever are looking for a speaker for your organization or an event, he's awesome. But Jeremie, tell us a little bit about yourself, Giant, your books, who is Jeremie Kubicek?
Yeah, so the whole thing about Giant is we basically got tired of kind of the leadership jargon in the 20th century. And we started going, how do adults actually learn? And how do you change leadership culture? And we figured out, we were like, you have to go right at the cynical know-it-alls that make up most of the leadership world, because we just have so jaded with so much. And so our whole business is trying to build, we call them liberating leaders, a different style of leader that learns how to bring support and challenge congruently into their cultures and change leadership culture around the world. So our whole business model is we certify people on our content to do that. And so we are known for like the 5 voices, the 100X leader, 5 gears, communication code, lots of different content, but the 5 voices is kind of our mainstay. So that's our whole mission, and our business is to change leadership culture by changing leaders. And the only way you do that is you got to do some deep work with them. You got to show them a mirror and let them see the broccoli and help them get the broccoli out of their own teeth.
That's good. You're giving them tools and equipping them with the things that they need to succeed, and that starts with yourself and looking inward. Yeah, that's good. Tell me, okay, so how do we get there? That's what I want to know is, we always talk about the recruiting story. So did you come out of college thinking, man, I'm going to be an entrepreneur? Where are you from? And was there anybody that was really influential in that process that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, my recruiting story is a guy named John Cragen. When I was in college, I went to OBU, a small little liberal arts school. And he goes, Jeremie, you're an entrepreneur, but have you ever thought about using entrepreneur as a platform for good? And I was like, all right, well, tell me more. I don't know what that means. And so he had lived in Asia. So he took me to Asia for a term. We went on a January term, like a 6-week trip to Asia with 6-7 other students. And he showed us his old world, and it was really influential. Then from that trip, he was like, you know what? Russia had just fallen, the Soviet Union had just fallen. Shows you at my age, right? This is 1991. And so I was graduating. And so we basically, he recruited me and a few other students. Would we have the guts to go and start a business in Moscow? So we started an economic school in Russia, in Moscow. It's now, crazy enough, it's now the largest private school in Moscow.
Wow.
It's called Moscow Economic School. And that was us. We started it. And then we started a marketing company and an accounting training business and sold those. And then, but I was there for 2 years, and I got to see how you could actually train people, change culture. Like, we got in the messiness of the mafia, the Moscow in the early 90s was just chaos. And so I was there for a couple of years, and that shaped me more than anything.
So talk to me about the person who sent you on that journey. How did you get connected with that guy, and how did he? Sounds like he saw something in you and also challenged you. How did that happen?
Yeah, his name is John Cragen. He was a business professor, but he was like, he is an activator. He was really good at it, almost like throwing out calling to people. Calling is like, what are you made to do?
Right.
And so he just had a vision. And so, I've had probably about 7 of those guys in my life that have kind of really, really been mentors that push me over and through my life. And now I get to be that to other people. So the whole idea is activating. What were you called to do? What were you designed to do? Versus what are you just supposed to do because you need to pay for a lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
And, most people I deal with in the leadership world, a lot of them are abdicating and they're just tired and accidental and jaded because they're living an accidental life. They're not living it on purpose because they forgot what they were called to do. And over time, they just kind of burn out or just they become fruitless.
Mm-hmm. But I love the distinction between like calling and just what your talent is, because those are two different things, right? I might be able to do something, but what am I actually called to do? I can think of a lot of people in my own life who are very similar for me. They were activated that at some point it was both, hey, not only do I think you're capable of this, but I think you're capable of more than what you may be already thinking. And that was always a challenge to me, to be like, that's cool, but I'm doing this over here rather than this over here. And fortunately, that caused the pendulum to swing for me to say, maybe I should think about doing something else. So
what I find is that a lot of people, especially the more, if you're just working and you wake up to make the donuts every single day, and maybe there's stress in your life, or maybe your relationships aren't right, or you've been accidental with your marriage, accidental with parenting, and you're just going through the motions, what happens is this cloud develops around your head, and it's just called the weighted cloud. And this weighted cloud, and I just made this up, but I just see it too much. And the weighted cloud is full of stress, worry, anxiety, complacency, frustration, and over time, depression is nothing more than long-term sadness. It's like that cloud is over you. So what the cloud does is it doesn't allow you to see your vision. So, but you're dissatisfied, but your dissatisfaction gets really, really high, but your vision is unclear because you can't see it. So then what happens is other people come in, and it's called encroaching vision. Mm-hmm. Your wife, right, your a dad or another friend. You know what, Adrian? You know what you should do? You should go work over here. I got a buddy. You should. And then that person in the cloud that goes, well, maybe I should. I don't know. I can't see my own vision, so maybe they're right. And then they're living someone else's vision for them. Mm-hmm. And instead of doing the work to clear the cloud, like what has to happen to get the cloud, get all of the fog around you out so you can see your vision again. You're like, that's right. That's what that's what I want. And that's what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So then vision and calling become now motivating. So like, I know I'm called, I'll just say this. I know my purpose is to activate people to become liberators. Yeah. So activating people to become liberating leaders means that like I'm activating them. I'm provoking them. I'm encouraging them. I'm giving them the tools that they need to be someone who ends up freeing other people that are so alive, so passionate, and so good. They bring support and challenge to help people. That's what my job is. So, it works for me. So I built a business around it. I'm the CEO of Giant. So now we have 1,400 people out there who are doing this for companies all over the globe. That's what I do, right? So I know it. So I'm pretty clear on my calling. So my passion is higher, my peace is higher. Because I know what I'm called and supposed to do.
Yeah, and it's so easy, right? In a world where we have so much coming at us, right? There's social media, and there's your work voices telling you need to go down this path or this career path or that career path. There's finances, there's food, there's all these different things, and if you let them, every single one of those will pull you in their own direction with their own interest rather than the purpose that you're called to. We go back to that word calling again, and you have to be incredibly intentional about saying, this is the calling that I I have to go for and work towards. What advice would you give someone who's in that right now? They're in that season of, I have that cloud.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like I have a calling, or maybe I don't know my calling. What do you tell that person?
Yeah. So what I like to say is stop generally whining. There's no general whining.
Mm-hmm.
List your specific frustration. So anytime I deal with, like, I work with football coaches or athletic directors, or I work with governors, and if I hear whining, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
stop, get your paper out. Let's go. I want you to list your frustration. So listing frustration is actually could be very cathartic if you have vision. So here's what you do. I'm really frustrated with the amount of money I'm making. I'm really frustrated with my relationship with my wife. I'm really frustrated with okay. So then go make your frustration and go a step deeper. What specifically are you frustrated about? And then what can you control versus what can you not control?
Right.
I can't control my mother-in-law. I can't control my blah, blah, blah. But these are frustrations. Now, right next to those frustrations, I want you to list your vision. Vision, what do you want? Like, what do you want to see? So I had a CEO do this recently. Okay. And we made a list of 15 frustrations. And I'm like, everything. What else? Well, honestly, I go, yeah. He goes, I'm frustrated with how hot my house is upstairs in the summer, and I can't seem to get it figured out. I'm like, okay, are you going to move? No, we love our house. We're going to stay, but it's just unbearable for 2 months. I'm like, okay. So frustration, that's the level of frustration we're looking for. Now, can you control it? I don't know. I've asked for people. And so I said, have you ever tried mini splits? Mm-hmm. So now vision, what it was his frustration was his upstairs was hot. His vision was he wanted to cool upstairs. Mm-hmm. Then we get to solutions. Now, what are the natural next things you can try? Have you ever tried mini splits? Because no, I haven't. I go, it'll change your life. Do it.
Right.
He texted me like 30 days later. It's like, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. We're there. Well, that frustration is no longer frustration, right? Because so what you're doing is you're basically listing all your frustrations, and next to them, you're listing your vision for every one of them.
Right.
That doesn't get you to calling, but what it does is it erases the cloud over your head. It starts to lower the cloud and dissipate this cloud. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you start seeing vision, and now you start doing a higher work. Okay. So that just gets you to, now you're starting doing a higher work that goes, hey, Adrian, we're buds. What do you see in me? What do you believe? And this isn't other people's vision. You're just almost like being enforced. What are my unique abilities? What am I really good at? So now you get that going on. But calling is actually, it in your soul. It's spiritual. It's a God thing. It's a soul thing. And then you kind of like figure out, you know what? I'm really good at encouraging people. This is me. I'm really good at activating people. I'm really good at getting them. So Jeremie, stay in that lane. Right. Do that work. Don't go off. And about 2-3 years ago, I had this opportunity to go. I do a lot of business ventures, and all of a sudden I noticed I'm now doing fundraising. Mm-hmm. And I'm raising funds for all these different things. I'm like, I'm losing my soul. That's not activating. I can do it, but that's not what I'm called to do. Just because you can doesn't mean you're supposed to. Totally. And so I kind of quickly backed out. Like, wait, no, I'm not going that route. And so I'm going to stay engaged in things that bring me life. So
that resonates. Yeah, no, that resonates so much, in my world. You think about recruiting, and so many times I talk with thousands of people, every year, and, they're thinking about moving or switching job, manage, or whatever the thing is. And so the natural next question is, okay, tell me why. Why is that important to you? And once we dig deeper, for a lot of people, it's not the thing that they thought it was, right? And so sometimes it ends up being like, either you need to stay where you're at, or maybe what you need is you need to do something. You need to go find your calling, right? And you need to maybe get out wholly of what you're doing and go chase the thing that you're passionate about, that you told me is the most important thing to you, that you feel like you're best at there. But that requires deep work. That requires like really getting in and writing. I'm a big advocate of putting things down on paper. So I love that idea of just saying, hey, let's just write it on paper. Let's just pen to paper, figure out, where we're at now, maybe where we want to be, and what's the gap in between. How do we get in there? So I love that.
What I found too, Adrian, is if your frustrations are higher than your vision, hopelessness will creep in, and when you become hopeless, no one wants to interview you. No one wants to. You're not promotable. So what happens then? Hopelessness leads to depression, leads to all types of negative things. So you have to elevate your vision. So vision gives you hope. Once you have vision, and when you're above your dissatisfaction, then it becomes natural to want to fix them. Then you can go, oh, mini splits. Oh, I need to work on this relationship. Oh, got it. Because I see it. I see the vision.
Yep.
And now I'm running towards it. And so elevating vision is very few people talk about it. Yep. But it's a big deal.
Yeah, because that vision is what can pull you into almost what I would call being healthy, right? Because whatever that thing is that's holding you back, it might be a mental state where you're like, I can't think about the mini split because I'm just so concerned about the problem, and the problem is the problem, and I'm stuck on the problem. And that could be anything, right? That could be finances, that could be your weight, that could be, your relationship, but I'm stuck on the problem. But if you can envision what it could be and think about, hey, ideal situation, this is what it looks like, and this is the good, then you can work backwards and say, how do I peel back these layers and get there? Is that right? Based off of kind of your experience, or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk more about, how you work with leaders, right? Because you've spoken with companies all over the country. You've spoken with coaches at big, Big 12 schools, Big 10 schools, these big universities. And so you worked with a lot of different leaders as they're building teams. Our company, we always say we want to help you build championship teams, right? So for you, as you're helping these leaders, maybe you're equipping them, with the software you use, with the different tools that you guys have. One, what are some of the main problems that you see leaders dealing with? And then two, I want to talk a little bit about recruiting and how what you've done works into that. So
so the first thing is, do you know yourself and able to lead yourself? What we found is just the resistant leader is someone who gets to a point and they're like, hey, you know what? I am who I am. These are what I'm good at. And like, this is just me. This is what I bring. But they're not adaptable. They don't know. So the idea of leadership is know others to lead others. So what we find a lot is a lot of leaders, they misuse the golden rule. Do unto others as you want done to yourself. I don't need a hug. Why should you need a hug? I never got training. Why do you need training? Figure it out.
Right.
I don't need to talk as much as you do. Why do you need to talk so much? Mm-hmm. And so what happens then is they create this bias of leadership, and then they go, but I read all these leadership books, and they reinforce, look at me, I'm amazing. Why can't you be like me? Just be like me and everything will be fine. And so it's this, the idea is, it's like on Mount Everest. The best leader on Mount Everest is not the climber, it's the Sherpa. Mm-hmm. The Sherpa has to climb while helping people climb.
Yeah.
One Sherpa has to help 6 other climbers get up the mountain, but the Sherpa never carries anyone up the mountain. Yeah. You have to climb yourself, right? So they have to bring this art of support and then challenge, but every climber is different. So they need to know, this climber needs a look. This climber needs a kick in the pants. This climber just needs a hug. Every climber is different. Mm-hmm. But if you're just a climber that goes, hey, I climbed to Camp 1, get up here. get up here. Or they stay in the tent, get up there, go.
Mm-hmm.
And like, no, great leaders, they are walking with their people and they're providing their training while we're climbing. And so the joke I always say is no one wants to follow the asthmatic Sherpa up Mount Everest. Like if they got an inhaler,
Right.
I'm like, is there another one?
Only around. There's somebody else. Yeah.
So then what that means in business is like you have to be the type of leader that people want to follow.
Right.
But you have to be healthy enough to climb. And then you have to be willing to be proactive in training people. And that's what I find what most people, the term leadership is like positional, not inspirational. Like, no, leadership is simply performing while helping people perform. That's leadership.
Yep. And that feels like I feel like there's just like a heavy dose of humility to that as well. Like, I might have a position, I might have a title, but nothing works unless we're performing together.
That's
right. Like if you're not performing, I'm not performing. And so how do we get you who, you might be the one with fear, or you might be the one who doesn't have the skills that they need yet, or you might be the one who doesn't have the education that we need yet to equip you.
That's it. So but the idea then is what we've done with the 5 voices, and then we help leaders. If you know your own wiring, you know who you are. I'm a connector. But what if I'm leading a pioneer? Well, I'm a feeler. What if I'm leading a thinker? It's going to be different. How they are motivated, what they want. So the whole game is this: like we give people kind of a competitive advantage. If you can read people, know people, and know what they're doing, then it's the platinum rule. Do unto others as they would want done. So that is the golden rule. So do unto others as they would want done to themselves is a major. And when you do that, you start moving people, you start leading people. And that's what the best coaches are doing right now because of NIL and sports.
Right.
Players are so fickle. So you've got to quickly know how to lead. You can't just be the dominating coach anymore. You can't be the dominating leader anymore of like, you do it because I told you so. That's why. Right. They're like, yeah, we're gone. See ya. Yep. That doesn't work. That's gone. That era. So now you have to learn a skill set of who are people, learn their personality, know how to communicate with them, build relational trust, get them aligned so they can execute. A lot more work to do, but the best leaders will figure it out. And that's what we've done with the 5 voices. We've created a certification that basically helps people master people skills. So if you want to be a master with people skills in communicating, building influence, and getting people aligned, then that's the system we built.
I want to be respectful of time. We want to wrap up here in just a minute, but with the 5 voices, right? Obviously, that's something that you've built. I've taken the assessment, super cool, super helpful from what I've seen there. Where do you implement that? Do you implement that in the recruiting process? Do you implement that in the onboarding process? What do you suggest for people? Based off of.
So in recruiting, it's helpful to know. You know, in our view, you can't hire based off of it because someone might be playing someone on TV that they're really not. They say they're a pioneer, but they're really a guardian or whatever. So, but it's helpful to know and understand the roles and what's needed. So like if I'm in accounting, don't hire connectors. I need them to be guardians. I need them to be but at the same time, what we do is we basically use it to develop people. So if you know who you're talking to, then you know that you can develop them at the higher levels. So I would just encourage people to one, know who you are, and so that you can start knowing and understanding your tendencies, and then you start knowing who and what you need in other people.
All right. So, Jeremie, you were saying that, if you were a connector and you had a pioneer, that influences how you lead them, correct?
Absolutely. How you hire them, how you develop them. So the whole idea is developing people, getting them into the right role, but you need to understand who they are and how they're coming across. And when you do, it's like a competitive advantage because you're like, okay, I can now know stress behavior. So the 5 voices is so good at stress behavior. We can go, you know what a nurturer does under stress? They withhold care. You know what a guardian do? They interrogate. You know what a connector does? They do cyber warfare. Pioneers, they bulldoze, they just take over.
Yep.
So if you understand the stress behavior and understand people, it's just such a competitive advantage. And most people just don't take advantage of it. They learn just enough, but they don't really do the work. Yeah. So that's what we're about.
Well, and I love it because I will say, just reading through, I was like, one, it's incredibly accurate for myself. So Pioneer is mine, if anybody's wondering. and as I look at the negative things there, that's very much when things get stressful, I'm just like, I'm going to do it all, right? I want to take over, just put it on me. And, while that might feel, sound like a badge of honor, typically I'm just stomping on everybody else and not leading well, which is a terrible negative. But the more you can understand yourself, the more you can recognize that and say, here's where I need to improve or where I need help in the process. So love that. Big advocate. Jeremie, I know we're running short on time. We had a little bit of a snafu here with our connection, but I wanted to just thank you for being on. If someone wanted to connect with you, get in touch with you about Giant, about 5 Voices, how would they do that?
Yeah, so the easiest is giantworldwide.com or jeremiekubicek.com, which my name isn't the easiest to spell, but maybe you could put those in your notes. But
Google it. We'll put it in the notes for sure. No, we appreciate the time, Jeremie. Hopefully we can get a bunch of people to you, and hopefully we'll have you back another time.
Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the Recruiting Stories podcast. If you haven't yet, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on LinkedIn, Adrian Chapman, and Cover 3 Consulting is our company page. Also check out our website, www.cov3consulting.com. Again, thanks for joining us, and we just simply want to remind you that you can change the world by putting people in a position where they can do the most good, and you do that by recruiting. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.